Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. I'm at the Smartvatten office in the Netherlands, which I heard now that there are 5 of them growing, all quite rapidly, which is just so exciting. Smartvatten has been part of the Smart Building Collective ecosystem for 2 years and has been a certified solution for that amount of time as well. And if you want to talk about water, these guys are the experts on it. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm here with Karl and Paco, all to talk about what's going on with Smartvatten in the world of water management. How are you guys?
Very good. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here.
Yeah, so good as well. Happy to be here. Happy to receive you, and also always a pleasure to pick each other's brains.
Always.
Yes.
Yeah, we always come up with all kinds of crazy insights when we work with each other. Karl, we're actually lucky enough to have him here because he's from working in Sweden, correct? And maybe just introduce the audience to who you are and what your role is.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm Karl Jepsson, based in Sweden, as we heard, working for Smartvatten in the capacity of Chief Product and Strategy Officer. So I'm overseeing our overall innovation pipeline, always on the hunt for the next thing that we can develop regarding water, obviously. I've been with Smartvatten now for 2.5 years, and before then, spent over a decade in the water industry and other companies as well. So water is really my big thing that I built my career on.
Wonderful. And Paco, you want to remind everybody your role?
Of course. So good afternoon, good morning, whatever, where you're looking from. My name is Paco Martina, working for Smartvatten for just over a year now. But I feel already fully immersed. And it goes so fast.
Submerged.
Yes, submerged. Indeed. Yeah. I see the pun there. In this water business, indeed. And my responsibility as a growth marketing manager for the Benelux and the UK region, and just recently also a little bit in Germany, helping the markets out there, making sure that everything that this brain, my colleague here, develops together with a team, gets translated in the correct way and gets marketed in the correct way.
Yeah, and I think what's so refreshing about the Smartvatten team and company is that fresh approach to marketing, thought leadership, how to actually move an industry that is, historically not been front and center of things that are going on. But as you see in the world, there's a lot of things changing from a climate perspective, from different ways of thinking about water, and so I think you guys are very timely and ready for the future. So Karl, I want to ask you a question. So a lot of the smart building market is talking about ROI, right? They're talking about return on investment of all of these smart initiatives, these different technologies that they choose for. So looking at the product as to where it is today, what are kind of the ROI aspects that you guys focus on, and why is it a interest of developers or buildings to think about you guys' solution?
Yeah, thanks for the question, and obviously a very interesting one here. And I would say there are 4 specific areas where we can deliver significant ROI for our customers, actually. And that is one, and the most obvious, as the water savings, right? By getting control in real time of your water consumption, I think we see in half of the buildings every month some anomalous patterns, which indicates some water wastage going on.
Wow.
And by having the right data available, you're able to go after that and do something about it. And that can be water just used in an anomalous way, kind of wasting the water from a leaking toilet tank or taps or faucets being on. Or it can be a real leak, which brings us to the second part of the ROI equation. That's the water damage mitigation that we can help with. So spotting leakages up front. Just heard about the case, a public building where we had fit the Smartvatten system in Norway, and they detected a broken copper pipe inside the wall. They could see that something was going on, and they found it thanks to the Smartvatten
Wow.
alarms. So that's obviously quite a big ROI
Yeah.
immediately here. Third part is the labor savings on the administrative parts, right? Getting the data straight into your systems. Obviously, Smartvatten digitalizes any type of water meter, sends the data to our cloud, but we also integrate to all, well, other systems, building management systems, ESG reporting systems, etc. So that means you don't have to go down to the basement and check the meter every month. Instead, you get the minute values at your fingertips. And you also don't have to, if you're managing a portfolio, right? I think that's kind of a stress for many ESG managers and so on to really get to the data,
Yeah.
reaching out to all these 50 property managers that you're working with, right? And getting the data and so on. So you don't have to worry about that either. So obviously some efficiency gains there. Yeah. And I would say the fourth part is the connection of water savings and energy savings. So when you save water, you'll also save energy, because a lot of the water that's being used is actually heated water.
Oh, wow.
So obviously when you heat the water, that's a major consumer of energy, right? And sometimes people forget about that sort of connection here. But saving water means saving energy.
I don't think anybody has really thought about that. I think people who are experts in water have thought about that. So that's a really, really interesting one.
Yeah, if I can add, and just recently, and I think, of course, in every region, and Karl can attain to that, I believe, the water challenges are very different, right? So here in the Netherlands specifically, we're having challenges with getting clean drinking water to buildings, right? So most of our Dutch audience looking probably already has seen in the news that there's building projects being stopped because the water companies, the water utilities, can't actually safely guarantee water coming through their buildings. So, and it's a human right. So that's also a thing that's very interesting, right? So what type of influences are coming from outside of water, building, right, and construction, that have impact on water utilities directly. And we didn't calculate this, but I've saw as well that the pressure that we as a collective are putting on the water utilities right now is also costing a lot of energy, because the water needs to be cleaned.
Yeah.
And if we're not aware of the amount of water that we're using, there's been a calculation, don't pin me on it for now, but I've written an article about it. Not me, but I've read about it, and then we've, based on our data, also did a check and saw that there's also a CO2 or energy emissions that we, when we use the water, are being lost if we don't do it in a mindful way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all starts with the data. And I know, the solution certification has very much focused on the building, of course, right? Because we are the smart building certification. But the Smartvatten system also spreads into the water system. Really tracking and tracing water throughout the whole system and assigning data to that so that we know how it's moving through the system, so that we can create a lot of efficiencies and exactly these types of things. You mentioned ESG, which I think is a really interesting topic right now. I mean, it's the hot word across the sphere, and all of the reporting standards that are coming out. And we like to say that if you do the right things, you will be actually more prepared for those reportings. So let's not treat reports as your annual taxes where we scrounge around to try and get this data, but let's be a little bit more proactive. And one of the estimates that we've recently come across is that they say just the reporting cost for these companies that have to do it is going to be around 40 to 350,000 euros a year to try and do some reporting on ESG. Yeah. And if you structure your data in a meaningful way, hopefully we can reduce those costs. So where are you guys at in that journey of supporting companies to think about those latest the CSRDs and the EU taxonomy and these types of things?
Yeah. Obviously, CSRD has been a hot topic recently, which kind of more or less everyone now needs to get hold of the water data as part of that, and at least do an assessment: is this material or not for our company? And I think that is really going to trigger more companies to think more consciously about the water consumption, because it is material to a lot of company. I mean, if you're in the real estate industry, especially if you're operating, let's say, a hotel or a restaurant, I mean, those are huge water consumers compared to many other properties in the water system that you alluded to. So we're supporting them both with obviously having Smartvatten installed. You have your CSRD data already, basically. So we have reports prepared for that, and you can get that straight out of the portal. Or as we said, you can also integrate it directly into your other types of reporting systems also. But then there are also these other, let's say, ESG certification standards, BREEAM and GRESB and LEED, etc., etc. They all have a water component in there. So some things are just around sort of measuring the water intensity or your performance. Am I reducing the overall water usage or not? And then there are also other aspects, which is around leak monitoring, for example. So where leaks obviously have a detrimental impact on your ESG performance, both in terms of wasted water, but then also all the follow-on effects of a damage, right? If you have to renovate the building, on what type of emissions that would cause and so on. And we support that also. So all of our clients are eligible for gaining points within those systems because Smartvatten is considered to be an effective leak monitoring system for those.
Yeah, I love that view on it, of that we can reduce the amount of getting new material to fix, the damages that are created from water, because water is such a massively damaging substance.
Absolutely.
And you never know where it's coming from, and all of a sudden it's everywhere. There was a story in Denmark that one of the hospitals had just this massive leak that happened. And then, of course, mold started to emerge, and they had to close the whole hospital. So talk about cost. You're also talking about all of the revenue loss that comes from that as well. Yeah. It's immense. Yeah.
Yeah, we see the same thing. Hotel rooms is a very typical example, right? There is all sorts of strange things going on in a hotel bathroom and leading to overflows. And, if that's happening on the top floor, then you might have to close all of the rooms beneath there. Yeah. So,
Catch it quick.
Yeah.
So what has been the most, you guys have both been doing this for a long time. What has been the biggest challenge, or what is the challenge that we face right now when it comes to the water management or implementing systems like Smartvatten?
I'll start with two things. Maybe Paco can have a few others. But number one thing is sort of awareness. Where is water on the priority list of your average property manager or building owner, right? It's been very much focused on energy, for example, and water has been further down the list of priorities. Yeah. So we're facing that, on a daily basis, explaining to customers and sort of raising the awareness. And I think it's picking up. Yeah. It's definitely picking up. Yeah. The whole idea, water scarcity, prices increasing and so on. But it's still a little bit of an afterthought compared to energy, for example. So awareness is one thing. Then another thing, for me, moving from the general water industry to Smartvatten, which is more, let's say, prop tech oriented, it was quite new to me that the whole real estate market is quite fragmented. So there's a lot of stakeholders involved to take a decision about implementing a system. So you'll have to deal with the property managers, asset managers, maintenance managers, technical managers, whatnot, right? ESG managers and so on. So it's a bit of a longer process to get everybody aligned and get their priorities right to get started.
The developer, the owner, the investor, and then the occupier, the user. I mean, it's all fragmented.
Yes.
And to bring those people together on one table to talk about these things is near impossible. You know, it's just not not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I can add a little bit on that, but I think those are the main points. To be honest, it's the prioritization of energy on the electric side and on the gas side, and the complexity of all those stakeholders. But to add as well, and maybe that touches a little bit on the first point, is there's no money budgeted for that.
Yeah.
So often then what we get mostly in the Netherlands, you can tell me how it is in Sweden, but it's too expensive because water is so cheap. Why should we monitor it?
That's just it.
You know, and is there anything else? I think those three would be the main points.
Energy had its heyday, right? Well, you had the war that broke out that sent energy through the roof.
Exactly.
Everybody all of a sudden was like, okay, we need to get our energy at least under control. And I think if you look one for one, the cost of water is that's not the savings, right? I think the real savings is have one of those massive leaks hit your building. You know, that's it.
And that's the thing with us as humans. We often, after the fact, start investing, right? Yeah. So what we want to do, and with creating the awareness as well, and from a market, from my perspective as a marketer, I really need to think very thoroughly about that. Because this morning, for example, had a meeting with a partner of ours, talking about where they are at or where their industry, for example, the healthcare industry is at right now. They have so much on their table, and every year the money faucet gets a little bit more tight. So water is just not their priority, and I get that, I understand that. And what we try to help with, and on an awareness point of view, or from an awareness point of view, is, hey, we get it, but make sure that you at least keep it in mind. And here are some tips, a little bit more of a soft approach. So because the CSRD, the ESG, and all these regulations are coming for all of the entirety of our society.
Just to give you an idea, in 2025, there's around 49,000 companies in Europe that are going to be subject to these initiatives.
Correct. That's
and that's only going to grow over the course of the coming years. Yeah. It's just going to get more and more finite to the point where it'll start to hit families at some point, I imagine. So
can imagine as well.
So really quickly to kind of close off, thank you guys so much for these insights and your time. What's coming next? How do you guys help make that transition from an afterthought or something that we're not needing to do to doing it now? How are you kind of adjusting your approach or your product, or how can we help people to
I think Karl is the perfect person.
That's why we asked it.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of things in our development pipeline right now, and we have a whole new product coming out in January probably. And what we're doing is, as you mentioned already to some extent, we're tracking water from the source all the way to the tap as much as we can, right? So through the utility network, into the buildings, and so far typically via the main meter of the building. But we're now integrating more of that into one flow, so we can see also on the sub-metering side, so on the individual space level or tenants level, making it much easier to correlate the data with the main meter and the sub-meters, and also for the tenants or the users to see their individual consumption via an app and so on. And then we're building logic on top of that. So how can we see patterns of individual meters working together on the broader scale also, and how can we detect anomalous behavior based on that and so on. So there's quite a lot when we start to dig into the data on minute level that we can find out.
Well, and I love the idea of connecting humans to the story and the discussion, right? Where you actually make it humanized, where people need to take responsibility for their piece of the puzzle.
Which is what we need in the end, right? Because we are only providing the data and insights, but somebody needs to do something with that to make an impact.
Yeah, really, really interesting. I was at the Smart City Expo in Barcelona a few weeks ago. And everybody talks about smart building and smart city being kind of the same thing, right? Because they both have the word smart in them. But you see that the stakeholder map there and the buildings is so absolutely completely different. And I love how Smartvatten is in both of those spaces. But I imagine that it's a lot to manage. It's a lot to add value to. So, but thank you guys so much for your time, your insights, and if you all want to get in touch with Smartvatten, in the link below, you'll get a link to their solution certification. So just contact us through there, and we're gonna connect you to the right people.
Yeah, and get you water efficient.
Get you water efficient. Closing
Absolutely.
remarks.
Well, thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to be in touch with those who wants to be more water efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Yeah, as I opened, always a pleasure to have you and to discuss these things as they're becoming increasingly important. So yeah, like Nicholas said, if you can help, if we can help you with anything, just feel free to reach out. Wherever you are in your water efficiency journey, we know for sure that we can get you further on.
Perfect. Thank you all very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.